What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, yesterday, Nintendo officially shut down the servers for the Wii U and the 3DS, meaning any online multiplayer was pretty much ended for those platforms. Except right at shutdown, we had a bit of a twist as a new exploit was made public that allows you to still play online multiplayer games on the Wii U, even if it's completely stock. So we're going to go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about a new listing that was discovered from Sony that seems to point towards an old popular online franchise making a return for the PlayStation 5. And then we have a bit of a shakeup at Square Enix that has, well, fans for the Dragon Quest series a bit concerned. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early and ad-free. If you want to learn more about that, click the join button down below this video. And we're going to start today with some PlayStation Plus Premium Classics titles that have leaked a bit early. Now, we can see this is posted up by Gamatsu. We'll start with this one here, saying the PS1 game Star Wars Rebel Assault 2: The Hidden Empire is coming to PS5 and PS4 through the PlayStation Plus Classics catalog, with it listed right now on psdeals.net as an April 16th release. And then actually moving up to just a few days ago, it looks like PS4 trophies for what looks to be the original Medieval game for PS1 have surfaced. These are different from the Medieval remake that came out on the PS4, so it appears both of these would be going into the service this month. And in fact, we should be hearing about this from Sony here in the next, 2 or 3 days. This week, they should talk about PlayStation Plus Extra and premium games going in. These actually are two pretty good titles for sort of the PS1 side of things, because really the only thing I've been critical about from Sony with this entire premium classic section is the lack of true PS2 titles through an emulator going into the service. This seems pretty good alongside of probably 1 or 2 PSP games. I think that'd be an alright month, at least for the classic side. I just want to see that PS2 game pop up. But hey, Medieval or Rebel Assault 2, which I played a lot of Rebel Assault on the PC back in the day, is at least a good way to get things started. Also, we had some strange stuff going on with Amazon if you have something like Luigi's Mansion 2 HD or Paper Mario Thousand Year Door pre-ordered, as they're just kind of canceling them. This started to really make the rounds yesterday on social media, like places like Twitter, which, for example, you can see this here. This is from Nintendo, who sort of keeps an eye on a lot of these listings and things that are happening when it comes to new releases, saying, no idea why Amazon has canceled pre-orders for Paper Mario Thousand Year Door and Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, but you can still grab them from Best Buy, GameStop, Target, and Walmart. I've had this happen with Amazon before, not even just Nintendo titles, so I'm not really sure what is going on here, whether it's just stock allocations, maybe over-ordering happening on Amazon. But I just wanted to bring this up in case you haven't checked. You definitely want to check now to see if maybe a pre-order you put on for Amazon for either of these titles is still being fulfilled, because there's a chance you may have gotten an email that you missed saying it was canceled, and then you want to start looking around elsewhere to get one of these titles. Oh, and it looks like we did get a bit more information for Persona 6, not necessarily from official sources, but the person who's providing this information has been pretty good when it comes to just leaking information, which we can see this is posted up over on X. This is from Midori, who says the color theme for Persona 6 is green, and development began in 2019 along with P3R and P5T, or Tactica there. So it being green, I mean, it makes sense. We had, 3, that way we had like blue, with 4, obviously golden, right? With the golden color kind of. And then with 5, it was red. So now moving over to green, obviously this completely confirms the idea that it is going into Game Pass day 1 now. I think that's just, it makes sense to obviously go with a different kind of color, and really the colors play into the entire theming and style of the game. So 6, I'm excited to finally get a look at this game, because it feels like they've released 5 over and over and over again. And I mean, it was a PS3 title. It seems like it's about time we finally got that next big Persona game. And I'm really curious to see how this does with really the success of 5 that really broke into the mainstream for the Persona series. What kind of launch do we get out of Persona 6? Because something tells me it's gonna be pretty massive for him. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with the Wii U and the 3DS, with their servers being pulled down officially by Nintendo yesterday, leaving the online pretty much unusable then, right? It's just, you can't play any of these games online unless you hack either system and use Pretendo, which is something people have been doing using Homebrew for a while now. And I mean, it's really cool, the idea of replacing Nintendo's online servers essentially with a third party, private servers, that sort of thing, so that you could still go online and play these titles. But it appears you don't actually have to hack or soft mod your Wii U in order to do that. Now, with the 3DS, you will have to kind of go that route, but we can see this posted up over on their website, and they put this blog post up basically as soon as the servers were pulled down by Nintendo, and it kind of makes sense why, since they do explain it here. We can see, though, they say, as a parting gift to you all, we are releasing our private SSL exploit for the Wii U. SSSL. Found by our very own Shutterbug, this exploit allows users to connect to Pretendo network from a stock Wii U with no homebrew or custom firmware at all. Only a DNS change. We've been holding on to this exploit for this day for quite some time in case Nintendo decided to issue patches for it. So, I mean, yeah, at this time, Nintendo pretty much views the Wii U and 3DS as legacy completely. They don't have any ties to it through online. There's no storefront to maintain, nothing. So this would be the best time, I guess, to throw this out there. Now, Nintendo can still go back and patch this. Will they, though? I feel like they won't, but who knows? We randomly get PS3 updates, out of nowhere, so it's possible. But say select services which use their own SSL libraries are unsupported. This includes several third-party titles like Watch Dogs and YouTube, as well as titles which run in an embedded browser like TV, the eShop, and the Miiverse applet. But get this, Miiverse functionality in games is still supported through SSSLs. That's pretty impressive. Now, I took a quick look to see what the steps would be for this, and they have this posted up over on their Install Wii U page. And it looks very straightforward. You go to System Settings, Internet, connect the Internet, you open the settings for your network connection, open DNS, select Don't Auto-Obtain, and you enter this IP address here for primary DNS, and that's pretty much it. You have a secondary DNS, and that you're good to go. Like, that's all it really takes. Now they go over some of the cons, which does include like the subset of services that are supported, lacks additional features and patches, and requires changing network settings to disconnect. But yes, because of this SSSL exploit that they've discovered, you can still play online for your favorite games on your Wii U, provided, I guess, if you're not using something like as they point out, Watch Dogs or YouTube or TV. But for the most part, people who were playing, I guess at this point, Splatoon or Mario Kart, those will all still be usable at this time. So very impressive stuff here by Pretendo, and a good way to at least still preserve that online experience. Some have been worried that Nintendo might show up and say, okay, that's enough of that with Pretendo, but they haven't yet. So I feel like they won't, but I guess who's to say with the exploit and maybe getting patched out. But I feel like Nintendo is full speed ahead on their next system, and the Wii U and the 3DS kind of an afterthought for them unless they want to pull some games from that library and port them up to the next generation system, like a Xenoblade Chronicles X, or maybe they do a full remake or something there. But yeah, at this time, if you have your Wii U and you're disappointed that the online servers were knocked offline, there's actually a way back online so you can play those different games. Next up, let's talk about a game franchise that was incredibly popular for Sony during the PlayStation 2 era, especially with the online play, and that's Socom. Well, there was a lot of discussion over the last couple of days that Sony might be working on a new entry for the franchise, essentially working to revive it after what we had back on the PS3. You'd use like the gun and like the move. Wasn't a great entry for Socom, but it does appear that Sony is really making a big push for the live service sector. To me, Socom makes a lot of sense. Well, we can see this posted up by PlayStation Universe, where they say Sony could be working on a Socom game for the PS5 after listing for something called Socom 111 was spotted on the resume for David Veitch, an actor who sadly passed away 2 years ago in January 2022. Now, this Socom listing, it being 3.1, some have wondered if it's Socom 3, and it's just kind of something that was put on there for the resume, as it's just listed as Sony. It's not listed as SIE or PlayStation, nothing like that. And apparently they did mocap work on this. Well, people did look through Socom 3, and they did not find this person's name in any of the credits or anything like that. So this appears to have been just a different project altogether. I don't really know why you would need mocap work if it was maybe a series, like a streaming series, a movie, something there. Socom to me is one of the franchises I think would make a lot of sense now with Sony's push for live service, especially with what we're seeing from Helldivers 2, which we're going to talk about some of the success around that now. It just continues to build and build and build. I feel like Sony would have had to have planned that out obviously a while ago, as we're hearing about this listing from that was noted. We'll put up 2022. But even before that, we've had rumors for years that Socom was getting revived. And a third-person military-style shooter, I think would work well for Sony if, of course, they're able to put the kind of budget behind it that would be required. I'm not even just talking about development. Even afterwards, with a full roadmap and updates, that does take quite a bit, as we've seen like Naughty Dog say, we either want to be single player or multiplayer in terms of our ambitions and our studio structure, and they picked single player. Can Sony put out something like a Socom with a team that's dedicated to the multiplayer aspect? I think they can, but we'll see. It's strange if Sony doesn't do that, because to me, right now, it's kind of a layup for them, but there is also a lot of competition in that space. But I'm crossing my fingers, hoping for Socom. We'll see if it pans out with Socom 111. Next up, let's talk about some updated sales numbers for Helldivers 2, which has been a runaway success for Sony, and I mean, it's pretty obvious, caught them off guard with the beating that those servers were taking early on. They've pretty much stabilized at this time, but the one thing that also has stabilized is a consistent concurrent player count, especially on Steam, where it's very visible at this time. It's just continuously above 200,000 players pretty much at all times. I think last I checked before I started recording, 250 or so thousand people were online just on Steam. So then you take into account the PS5 numbers, and it's probably double that, you feel like. But we can see this posted up. This is over on gamesindustry.biz, pointing out the UK GSD March 2024 top 10. That's digital and physical sales, with Helldivers 2 at the top. In fact, it seems like Helldivers 2 has become pretty steady at retail, and in some cases has actually moved up 10 to 20% week over week. Then we have EA Sports FC 24, Dragon's Dogma 2, WWE 2K24, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, Command & Conquer Generals, which, remember, EA did like the release of a bunch of Command & Conquer and older legacy titles. This does also count digital releases. Grand Theft Auto 5, Hogwarts Legacy, and then Command & Conquer Red Alert 2. So a lot of nostalgia there, seeing Command & Conquer back on the sales charts. But we did have a bit more context here from gamesindustry.biz, saying after 8 weeks, Helldivers 2 sales are now trending ahead of where Spider-Man 2 was after the same length of time, that obviously being the last big release from Sony before Helldivers 2. They are, of course, very different games, with Helldivers 2 retaining a $70 price tag and only releasing on PS5, not obviously on PC and Steam. Helldivers 2 has a lower price and is also available on PC. Still, though, it's extremely impressive to see this out of Helldivers 2, and you hear what they say. It also released on PC. Well, okay, does that mean that if Spider-Man 2 was on PS5 and PC at launch, would it have actually been able to outpace Helldivers 2 then? Probably, yes. I mean, be able to sell to that wide of a market, sure, but Helldivers 2 plays into, I think, the online PvE nature for PC gaming. Like, those are very popular franchises, or just popular genres in general. There are a lot of different PvE titles that only go to PC, they don't even go to consoles, and they typically work out well enough to continuously update for years at times there, so it's not shocking to me that Helldivers 2 would do well on PC. It does make me wonder, though, about Sony's view on this entire thing. Are they now seeing this as, oh wow, live service games could actually work for us if we do it right, like we're doing with Helldivers 2? So much so that the narrative-driven stuff, yes, it's great, but that is limited to like just the PS5, and we're seeing continuous interest in something like Helldivers 2 with monthly active users, who are then also spending money, I'm sure, on the microtransactions in the game. Should we be putting more and more effort into that? I mean, maybe. What I would like Sony to take away from this is, we don't need every game to be these big budget $70 games. I think there is a place for a $40 or $50 section for Sony, where they don't put all the money in the world into a release and it takes 7 years or something to come out. I don't mind having the lower price $40 to $50 games that take 3 years to develop and are consistently releasing with some fairly creative ideas. That's just me though, but let me know how you feel about that whole thing, because it seems like Helldivers 2 is doing really, really well, and it makes me wonder if Sony's gonna rethink some of their strategy going forward because of that. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about a bit of a shakeup at Square Enix, which does have to do with Dragon Quest XII, which is almost 3 years old for that original announcement. Remember the trailer with the Dragon Quest XII logo and it being very fiery, and apparently it's going to be more of a mature tone for the franchise, sort of a different direction that they're taking here. Well, it appears there have been a lot of delays behind the scenes. Go figure again. We haven't really heard much about it for 3 years now, and unfortunately for Dragon Quest fans out there, I think it's gonna be quite a while before we even see this game again. Well, we can see this is posted up. This is taken from Nintendo Life, who also quoted Bloomberg, which I'll link to them as well. Of course, that is behind a paywall there, but saying, according to a new report from Bloomberg, Dragon Quest top producer Yu Miyake, who is now 56 years of age and has contributed to numerous Dragon Quest titles over the years, will be stepping down from the role following delays of the new entry. He will supposedly head up Square Enix's Tokyo-based smart game division from here on out. Miyake originally joined the Japanese publisher and developer back in 1992. Now, people aren't 100% sure who's going to replace him to essentially now take over production for Dragon Quest XII, but Bloomberg says as for his replacement, it's believed 53-year-old Nier producer Yosuke Saito will take over his position. Okay, well, I feel like Saito would be able to get Dragon Quest XII back on track and hopefully out in the next, I'm gonna say 3 to 4 years. I know it's tough for Dragon Quest fans to hear that, but like we're still waiting for Dragon Quest III HD 2D to come out, let alone 12, the next big entry. And we've seen Square announce these Dragon Quest games well in advance, before they're even ready to go, and then it just takes years and years and years. Unfortunately, I think Dragon Quest XII is going to be one of the worst examples for that. Like it's going to be a bit, I feel like it's going to actually end up closing out the current generation we're in now for the PS5, and we'll see if Microsoft can get it on the Xbox, and hey, at least it'll probably be on Nintendo's next system. So there's that, but it's going to be a bit, and hearing about the idea of having to shake things up maybe behind the scenes because it's taking so long with these different delays, not at all surprising based on kind of what's been said and what's going around now. So here's hoping they can get things back on track for Dragon Quest XII and get it out in a reasonable time frame. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're going to take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, did you play Socom Online when it was out on PS2, PS3? And I'm sorry to the PSP players, I should have put that as well. It should read PS2/PS3/PSP, but there you go. 83% say no, 17% say yes. So I almost wonder if, while I know people have heard of Socom, many people out there, I think there are many people who have just never played Socom, because it is a very different kind of game than what we have now, and it would need some, I'll say, modernizing in terms of controls and layouts and that sort of thing. So I think that they can still keep the core spirit of the game alive, but it's going to undergo some changes if they do indeed take it and revamp it and make a new one for the PlayStation 5 generation. But I still think that audience from back in the day will come back to it, and there's a chance they can attract a whole new audience from the generation that didn't at all play it back. I mean, the PS3 one, not exactly what people think of when they hear Socom. If you were there back during the PS2 days, that is some heavy nostalgia hitting now and some wild times. That I was mostly a Halo person, but I had a friend who swore by Socom, and I would play it here and there. I think Socom 3, if I'm not mistaken, and I saw it, I understood, but the third person thing would throw me off. I was more of a first person Halo 2 guy back then, but I would love to see Socom come back, just see what they can do with it. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Slant, who says, Activision, why not give Pitfall Harry some love? What would a new Pitfall game look like now? Would it just be a lot of 3D platforming, I guess? That's a game that is, so I know, I think they did some other ones too. Like there was one on the Super Nintendo, but like it hasn't been done any time in the, obviously on like a PS3 or where you can kind of visualize okay, how they could try to remake this or reinvent it. Like, that would be one they can kind of do a clean slate and make it however they would like to. So those would be some interesting revivals just to see what direction they take it in. And like, Activision Blizzard's library is so deep with those kind of titles, they could do that. I do wonder though, again, Pitfall is definitely a game that people remember from the Atari, and that's a long time ago. So that would be another one they'd have to kind of introduce as almost a brand new franchise all over again, but sure, why not? Let's see what they can do. I mean, if you think about it, those are the kind of franchises and game revivals that Game Pass is perfect for, since it would just go in the subscription service and more people would be able to try it out from there, especially people who maybe wouldn't take a chance on it for $70, $60, maybe even $50. If it goes in the subscription service and it kind of retains people and at least gets some interest, it might be worth it for Microsoft to branch out and see what, I guess, their developers can come up with at these different studios. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here. Today was Pretendo coming through at the end with new exploits that you can play online with a stock Wii U. Let me know down in the comments if you've been using Pretendo for any length of time and what your experience has been. And are you someone who would like to see Socom come back? And do you think Sony could be successful with it in sort of the live service sector now? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.